to get to the postseason and to keep Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
That should be the only thing that matters to this franchise. Can we keep Shohei Ohtani? Does that involve going to the postseason? Yes, then we need to go to the postseason. We need to do whatever it takes, barring like the sale of the stadium out from under them to like, to Saudi Arabia or something. Like, just do what you have to do. That I think to me is the most important thing the Angels need to do at this point going forward. Is just make that decision, say we're in it. That means we're gonna go for it.
There you go. A team that should not go for it, and even if they did, they wouldn't go anywhere. The Kansas City Royals, Jon Tayler. They came out this week and said Salvador Perez will not be traded, that they're not looking to move him. Would you move him? What is his return? What is his trade value?
I have no. That's the thing. I have no clue. It's really hard to figure out because there are a lot of ways you can look at Salvador Perez in terms of just what kind of value he provides to your team, depending on what it is exactly you value. Because
I just imagine this came out because Kim Ng kept calling the Royals and we're like, "Hey, what?" And they're like, "Starting pitcher," and they're like, "No."
I mean, that's kind of a fascinating potential trade there that you just picked up. I don't. But here, I mean, this is the thing though. By essentially all the advanced metrics we've got, Salvador Perez is a bad defender. Like he's not good at catching. At least the framing aspect, the block, like it just he is not good at that stuff. He's he's a okay blocker. He's great. He used to be very good at deterring stolen bases. This year he's been quite bad. He's a terrible framer. He's got an okay arm at this point in time. Like the value of a guy like Perez, I think, comes more from, and it's funny to bring this word up in the year 2023, but a lot of it is the intangible stuff. It's the clubhouse veteran aspect of it. It's the clubhouse leader aspect of it, and it's the I can lead a young rotation aspect of it.
Yeah,
to be that guy essentially, to be that veteran catcher who brings that level of experience to a young staff that needs it. The problem I see with that is I don't know that necessarily you want to import that mid-season because that's a really hard thing to do, is have a catcher learn an entirely new pitching staff on the fly in a playoff race. You're asking a ton of that person. And a guy in Perez who already expects to play every single day. So his workload is going to be 100% from the second you get him, and he's got to learn a new pitching staff. That's the kind of guy I think I'd much rather have in the offseason. Give him the entire offseason and spring training to learn that staff. To learn how this player works and how they don't. And that also gives you enough time to line up a decent backup alternative, at least in terms of a glove or in terms of a guy who's going to play if and when Perez does get hurt, because that's the hardest position to play in baseball and the one that probably leads to the most injuries, aside from pitching. Yeah. So, I'd also have a hard time kind of figuring, well, how does a team value that in terms of, well, here are the prospects I would give you for that? I don't know. I think this is kind of something where a team would say, look, if you want to move Perez, here's a list of guys. Pick out some names you like, and maybe we can come to a deal. I don't necessarily know that that's something where, the Royals can even come out and say it would take 2 top 100 prospects. I mean, first of all, that would get them laughed out of the room, although I don't know that would stop the Royals in the first place.
Yeah.
But at the second, it's like that doesn't feel like even remotely a normal price to pay for. I just don't know what the valuation of a guy like that is.
Do you think it's higher or lower than what Contreras was on the table for last summer?
I think probably lower because Contreras is a better hitter at this point in time.
Yeah.
They're both poor defenders, but I think there's a ceiling or an upside with Contreras that Perez doesn't really have anymore. And so that was Jose Urquidy was the rumor straight up for Contreras.
I think so, yes.
And Dusty Baker said no because he wanted Urquidy down the stretch. I mean, that's a young, cheap, cost-controlled back-end rotation guy. I guess, but I mean, like, if you're the Marlins, what does that look like on the actual Marlins right now? Like, if you're the Marlins, I think if you're the Marlins, the Royals probably say no. Actually, give us some prospects instead. But what is a Jose Urquidy on? Is that like Braxton Garrett?
Yeah.
If you're the Royals, do you do Sal Perez for Braxton Garrett? It's a fascinating kind of challenge trade on both ends, or if not a challenge trade, at least a kind of weird, like, oh, that's what a catcher is worth in that specific catcher. But like, I don't know. I don't really know that it's ultimately worth it to Kansas City either. I think there is a genuine value to having a guy like that just around, and also just to again, like if the return for it is going to be Braxton Garrett, a guy who is a good starter, but probably profiles as a long-term, like middle of the rotation at most and back into the rotation at most likely guy, does that, I mean, I guess that's the thing. How do you value a guy who means more to you for intangible reasons than for what he actually can do on the field? And which is not to say that every value that Perez provides is intangible. I mean, he's a very good power hitter, but and he's, you know, even if he's not the best catcher, he's durable as all hell, and that's got a value in and of itself. It's the weirdness of like, how do you make that particular acquisition work for you midseason? And I don't know. Maybe some team can figure it out, but if I were a GM, even if I needed the catching help, I don't know that that's the route I would want to go.
That's fair.
I mean, the Royals also have a billion other problems beyond like whether or not to trade. So, do you know they now have the worst record in baseball?
We talked about it, where it's like they've been shielded by just unbelievable intentional ineptitude in Oakland.
Yeah.
That in any other year, the Royals we're looking at as like, what an unmitigated disaster this is.
This is really something. Like you're 100% correct. Like Oakland did this on purpose.
Yeah.
The Royals just ended up here. This is not necessarily the intended result, but man, they're running a 269 winning percentage on the season. They're on pace to finish 46 and 126, and they just lost Vinny Pasquantino for the rest of the year today.
Yeah.
Today being Wednesday. They are gonna lose 120 plus games. I don't think there's a single doubt about that. They are an awful, awful team, and boy, like I don't understand how anyone in that front office can return next year. Like anyone. Like I don't think we've seen a clearer example of like a needed clean sweep. They did, but JJ Picollo is a Dayton Moore, lieutenant. Yeah. Like that's a change only in the sense that if Alex Anthopoulos left the Braves, leaving one of his guys in charge for leaving. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know the Braves front office well enough.
It was Dana Brown.
Yeah, okay, there you go. If Dana Brown were still in Atlanta, would have been the equivalent of Dana Brown taking over, which is to say nothing about Dana Brown, but more to say that, this is not, I don't think there's necessarily been much of any of a change from one regime to the other. I think the only thing that's changed is the guy who makes the ultimate decision. But I don't know how you can have a team lose 100 or be on pace to lose 125 plus games. And if that comes to pass, I don't know how anyone in that front office should survive like the second the season is over.
Also,
if anything, they should all be
like
let go
of
right
situation,
now.
Right? If you're a fan where you've done this long-term rebuild and you were bad, and the wheels came off quickly after winning a title and everything that went on there, and then for the wheels to fall off the way they did, so you get bad, and Salvi has been here for all of this, but then the rebuild does somehow just, it makes things exponentially worse.
Yes.
And there's really no hope because even this rebuild has set you back so much further in top of another incoming rebuild.
We're probably talking about not seeing a winning Royals team for another 5 years.
Yeah, they're going to do a decade plus of horrific
They're
baseball.
back. They're back to being who they were because I think that the problem is likely similar. It's an ownership group that doesn't want to spend, although I guess we'll see to a certain degree because now it's a new ownership group, but results obviously so far have not been positive. And it's a front office that is very clearly not up to the times. And that was always the thing with the Royals of years previous. It wasn't just the fact that they didn't spend. It was that front office just seemed stuck in whatever the previous decade was. Again, we've talked a lot about how much of a failure their pitching development has been. Their hitting development has been saved only by the grace of, honestly, Pasquantino so far. Yeah. Bobby Witt is a superstar five-tool athlete, but he's also posting a sub 300 on base percentage right now.
Yeah.
There's only so far that can take you, and right now, granted, being the latter day Tony Bautista at his age isn't exactly he's still only 22 years old. He's a child, but there's still a lot of development he can do, but so far it hasn't been good.
Yeah.
To say nothing of Nick Pratto, to say nothing of the rest of the young bats in that system that just simply have not progressed, or whom they just simply don't seem to have time or energy for. Why is a guy like Kyle Isbell not playing every day? Why is a guy like Edward Olivares not playing every day? Why are you they just now, a week or in the last few days, DFA Jackie Bradley Jr. And no disrespect to Jackie Bradley Jr., whom I love so deeply and in a way that I don't even really fully understand. Mm-hmm. That's not a guy you should have signed in the first place. JBJ has nothing to offer a major league team at this point besides his glove. And there are a million dudes, theoretically, in every farm system in baseball who can do exactly that. Those are the guys you should be taking your chances on. Why are you bringing these dudes in the first place?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the Royals roster, and it just doesn't really make sense. And I think this is where the Perez stuff ultimately confuses me too much. Is like, I don't even know what they would really do that would make all that much sense. Like, why? And granted, I think part of the problem too is like you look at that lineup now. Everyone with the exception of Perez is under 33 and substantially so in a lot of cases. This is a bunch of young guys struggling together. But again, like you couple that with the pitching development, you couple that with, some just truly strange player management decisions that just don't seem to make any real sense. You couple that with the bad luck of a guy like Pasquantino getting hurt. It's a perfect storm, but like again, like you said, like this is where they ended up because of decisions that they made. This is not an accident. This is not intentional in the sense that the A's are intentional. This is where the Royals put themselves because they're bad at all of the stuff you need to be good at to build a major league team.
Go Royals.
I know, it sucks, but like I just feel bad for Royals fans, especially because they got such a short time on the top of the mountain before they got kicked back into hell. Like them and Pirates fans just got that brief, sweet taste of freedom, of life on the outside, and then they got thrown right back in. And that's
at least the Pirates, there's still a little bit of hope. We talked about it, where it's like it's
even that it took a decade for that to come back, basically.
Yeah.
The last like 5 to 8 years in Pittsburgh have been a real unpleasant mess baseball wise. And we're now at that point with Kansas City too, that this has been a long time going, that this has been a completely uncompetitive team. Just not like completely uncompetitive. Like night in and night out, not at all on the same level as the team facing them.
Well, don't worry, John. They're going to trade Aroldis Chapman for King's ransom and be fine.
And like that's the thing, their path back to this is the other thing for these front offices. Why do you want these guys running the next draft? They keep screwing up. The worst thing they can I understand the draft is in like a month basically. There's not enough time to, even if you wanted to do something at this point, you're kind of locked in, but this is why these decisions have to get made quickly and decisively too, because they are now ruining future crops, so to speak. They are poisoning the well for future Royals teams because they don't know what they're doing right now. And that has such a huge ripple effect that, like we said, it's going to be the reason that this is not a winning team for quite some time.
Yeah. Jon Tayler, speaking of winning team and not a winning team for quite some time, Alvarez gone for a month. McCullers now gone for the year. The Astros reportedly looking for a lefty bat at the deadline. I mean, we talk about season from hell, but like the Astros really are just having the season from hell.
And despite all that, they're 9 games over 500.
Yeah. But does this continue? Do you see the wheels falling off? How much more can they withstand at the injury front?
It's thin now because, obviously losing a month's worth